Is it enough, or we just get awakened when someone dies? Then we are talking about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even talked about the kind of situation that we have of Delhi streets.
It is a classic case of multi-organ failure, and there are very many regions. Every time we have such untoward incident, the media also wakes up and the government also swings into action.
They have their canteens in the basement, and it's running in a free flow. There is nobody who is coming and going to, stop it until and unless someone dies.
All those who are responsible must be brought to books. As my learned panelists both are legal luminaries, so to say, I totally agree with them on this point.
What is the way ahead? Is it going to continue like this? Millions and millions of rupees involved. It's a private, education system. What is it happening in India?
Nobody is bothered about welfare of the students, and we have all sympathy for these three brilliant students who could be IAS officers in our country.
Hello and welcome. I'm Nagen Singh, and today we are here to discuss one of the big issues that we are seeing in India, and that's about how all these education institutes are working in India, what kind of limitations are there, is there corruption involved, how the death of three students took place in Rajendra Nagar, who is responsible, and if the educationists of India have turned into mafia. Well, we are being joined by people from different departments. We have an advocate, we have a retired police officer, we have an educationist as well. I'm going to introduce you to everyone, and then we are going to take further this discussion. Who is responsible if Indian educationists are turning into a big mafia, because it's a multi-billion business in India to educate students? Well, I have been joined by three of the panelists. I have Ellen Rao, he's a former DCP of Special Cell. We have Advocate Anubha Srivastava Sahai. She is the president of India White Parents Association and child rights activist. And then we have Mr. Braj Kishor Gupta. He is educationist and chief mentor Gainship. And the name of his organization is GainStep. Well, first of all, I'll go to Mr. Ellen Rao. Mr. Rao, who is responsible? What is happening? Is there corruption involved when someone like MCD or the other departments, they give them a place, the basement and everything? We have figured out that there were no appropriate instructions given by MCD to run that particular place, that particular library, but it was running in the basement. So how does it really work? Who are the people who give these kind of, there are no restriction on the kind of places that are being used by these big education departments?
Yes, Nagendraji, this is a very a serious incident which shattered the minds of so many our Indians, especially when these three brilliant students were done to death because of some negligence on the part of not only negligence. This is a case of culpable homicide not amounting to murder. It is covered under section 105, 106 and 290 of BNC, latest laws on BNC. Offenses has been explained in that. Let me apprise of the facts till now which I have come across, that this premises was being used as a library and a study room, a study place for the aspirants of the candidates who are preparing for IAS and civil services examinations, and that was a basement. If bylaws of building bylaws, we can see that basement cannot be used for these type of purposes. That is very clear. But in this case, I must tell you, there was some complaint about this sewerage, that water was coming into this place, and there was previously a complaint as stated by the students, and that was not looked after. That complaint was not taken care of by anyone, by the concerned officials of MCD. And also there is a requirement of NOC. NOC means no objection certificate by the fire department also, because that fire department is also has to see if the place which is being used for these study purposes is worth using that. If there is any fire incident, then is there any escape route? And in the basements also, there is a provision and in MCD bylaws that there should be some another exit also. There should be two exits. So that in case of eventuality that there cannot be a stampede, and in that two exits can be used for evacuating these persons who have been trapped in this any type of tragedy. So this case seems to be the blatant ignorance or blatant, you can say, the misuse of the building bylaws.
See, the authorities, everyone is responsible. Not only MCD, the fire department. Our fire department issues NOC to each and every building. Without NOC, you cannot get OC. That is mandatory. How come this building was running and and apart from the fire NOC, they have to conduct inspection, regular inspection. Why that was not being done by the fire department? Why that was not being done by the MCD? Why all these authorities were silent? I don't know how many in how many buildings, like in Mumbai, BMC conducts inspection of all the schools, of all the premises, whether that structure is okay or not, and then they issue notice. I don't know how come in Delhi such things are not happening, which is the capital of our country. First part is that Delhi being the capital of our country, they're seeing such incident. What will be situation in other cities and small towns? Don't know. Definitely, if the government will not take action, then I don't think these institutes or maybe other coaching mafias or any other business people who are doing such business in the premises using basement, using illegal, doing illegal activities. I would say that this is an illegal activity and this must be stopped so that people in other states or other cities will not do such
But
things.
we living in Delhi, or we know about cities like Bombay. It is all in front of us. It is a daily thing which happens. But all these issues become bigger. We can think of the basement or a library in the basement today, but there are multiple places. They have they have their cafes, they have their
Yes.
canteens in the basement, and it's running in a free flow. There is nobody who is coming and going to stop it until and unless someone dies. Now let's go
Yes.
back to the educationist that we have, Mr. Braj Kishor Gupta. What do you think about what is happening in these institutes? They charge from 1 lakh to 3 lakh to 4 lakhs to prepare you for an IAS, but they cannot give you a guarantee that your child is safe in that place where children are being sent for studies, and they're spending hefty money. They are paying hefty money to all these institutes without the basic necessities or the basic infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Two of my learned panelists have had very legal perspectives, and they are absolutely right. I agree with them. But first of all, my heartfelt condolence goes with the parents of Shreya, Tania, and Dalwin. It's very unfortunate that 3 young lives have been lost. Nothing can compensate that. But what I feel, we are more interested in doing lip service. My focus is to understand the entire situation in a holistic perspective. This is a classic case of multi-organ failure. It is a classic case of multi-organ failure, and there are very many regions. Every time we have such untoward incident, the media also wakes up and the government also swings into action. And we have now a lot of media doing this. But is this different from what happened in Kota? That's my question to the media. It is not. This is not one incident, my friend. This has been happening. Why does it happen? If we are thinking or trying to punish the guilty, that is very legitimate. That is in accordance with the law. But you have to go into the genesis of the matter, who all are responsible. It is not just the law. If you see the credibility of law, IAS Coaching Institute, it has done wonders in terms of producing IAS. But here the focus is not the credibility of the institute. It is something else. It is the security reason. Why did the students get locked up? It was primarily the failure of the biometrics. Number one. Number two, as my learned panelist rightly talked about, an NOC was required for running that kind of business. That was not meant to be so. and it was not one party that is to be singled out. So what I feel, we have to see education as a whole, also because today we are talking not in terms of GDP, we are talking about HDI. Human angle is very, very important. What is the fun
Right.
in quality education if lives cannot be saved, my friend? Government has to wake up here. Government has to give priority to education. And when I say priority to education, it is not just the quality of education. If lives cannot be saved, wherein lies the significance and importance of quality in education, my friend? So saving life has to be the top priority, and the government cannot be exonerated from the blame. All those who are responsible must be brought to books. As my learned panelists, both are legal luminaries, so to say, I totally agree with them on this point. But this is a classic case of multi-organ failure. I stand by that.
But in such a scenario, my question is to all three of you. We'll keep it short, 1 minute. You must have children. You are parents yourself. So in a situation like this, we already know that parents are spending so much. But what are the things they are going to see before sending someone to a place like Rao IAS, so many big institutions? We are live from Noida Sector 62. Even in this area, we have multiple institutions. All the IAS institutes are here. But what should a parent think about in a place like India, where we have no clarity, or we cannot have a written guarantee from any of the institutions that their child is safe? What are they going to think of before sending their kids to study to such institutions, which are huge, which are popular, which are one of the best names in India, if you want to become an IAS? So what should a parent think before sending their kids to these kind of institutions?
Yes,
I
yes.
can't.
That regulation is by the government is most welcome, and there are some guidelines, as well as the standard operating procedure is also mentioned in that. And I think that if it is implemented, that is very important. I agree with Anuvaji that the most important part is that how it is implemented. The implementation part is most important, because laws are there, no doubt in that. But if these are not followed, or these are not implemented in real latent spirit, then they are useless. So in this case, if there is any floating from these bylaws and by sections or the directions as prescribed by the government to run these institutions, then there should be a stricter section against them. They should not be allowed to run all these things, because definitely you can say indirectly that these are the mafias in the name of education. They are selling the education, because in the garb of these coaching institutions, they are in this case also you can see that this organization was minting huge money, but they could not take a space when their students could accommodate in a very proper environment.
There
Now,
is
Mr.
no.
Gupta, just the last question, and of course, we want to wind up with you. You have been in education for so many years. You know how much of money is involved in this business. You also know that how so many educational institutes, these centers, coaching centers, have erupted throughout India in last few years. So where are we heading? Where are we heading as a nation in terms of education? And what is the way ahead? Is it going to continue like this? Millions and millions of rupees involved. It's a private, education system. What is it happening in India?
Let me answer your question by asking a counter question. Why is that happening? My learned panelists talked about the irregularities and corruption. There is no denying that. Of course, all that exists there, and that must be checked. I totally agree with them. My point is, why is the need for mushrooming of educational institutes? Our educational institutions are failing to cater to the aspirations of the students. What is that aspiration all about? Joblessness. These institutions promise you jobs, and as a parent, I would like my child to get job. Yes or no, you tell me. So why is that happening? So the question comes, we have to revisit our education system. What do I mean by that? The curriculum system, the curriculum that we have has to be restructured. Why can't we have teachers? Why can't we have study materials for our students that will prepare them for competitive exams like CLAT, like civil services, like engineering, Why can't we do that? The problem is we are focused exclusively on an event that happens, and we have discussion and debate on that, and thereafter everything is forgotten till an untoward incident occurs. So to conclude, my
Right.
friend, I say we have to understand that the strength of India has always been education. It was not for nothing that it was said, "Jagti kahin gyan ki jyoti, शिक्षा की यदि कमी न होती तो ये ग्राम स्वर्ग बन जाते." That is not happening today. We have to revisit our education system, and in this context, NEP has done a good job by bringing focus back on entrepreneurship, on internship, and on creating jobs. But the other aspects, how can we make our educational system across the nation competitive in terms of preparing our children? Only then can such mushrooming of educational institutions be stopped. Otherwise, we will go on blaming and blaming, and that will not resolve the malice which is eroding the very fabric of the nation.
However, it seems it's a long way to go when we look at the number of institutes that we have, the amount of money that is involved in it. It seems like India has a long way to go if we want to reform our education system. We know that the governments have been saying that they will be reforming, and they are into the process. They have, of course, reformed so much of the syllabus. But let's see how it goes in terms of reforming the higher education, which is the demand of the country, demand of so many youngsters who are jobless. And of course, I understand when you talk about that, it all erupts from one place. That of course everybody needs a job, and millions of students who are there, they're still struggling. They're trying for IAS, for NEET, for so many big exams that happen in India. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining and bringing in your perspective from the police department, from the law, and the educationist yourself. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Srivastav, and Mr. Gupta.